Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another fantastic episode of the House of Hammers. I couldn't be more excited to be back with you guys. We've got our co-host, Mr. Christopher Okoye. And before we get to our special guest, the House of Hammers is a platform where we talk about servant leadership, loving tough. We talk about pouring back into each other. We talk about being there for each other. And before we start this week's episode, I want to make sure that I give a special shout out to a member of the Catholic Central family that we lost. He's a tennis coach, worked in our development office, just an angel of a person for us. And Chris, I know you agree with me when I say this. I feel like when we have people in our lives for a short period of time and they're so positive, that's as close as we get to having an angel on earth. And Chris, you and I have been around a couple of those people, and we've lost them here at CC, like David Widzinski and now Charlie Syracuse. And Charlie, we just want you to know, and hopefully you're watching and listening from heaven, that we love you, and we are so honored to have been just a small part of your journey. And the way that you loved us, that I don't know if we can find somebody to replicate that, but we're going to carry on your word, your passion on a daily basis. And Chris, I know Charlie was very special to you. If you want to share a few words about him, we'd really appreciate it.
Charlie was just an amazing man, very humble man, a man who poured into others, a great leader and mentor. But the thing I loved about him most was his dedication to the upliftment and the empowerment of others, especially the younger generation. I mean, when you're in your mid 70s, everyone becomes the younger generation. But being the CEO of Carhartt, Hanes, Timberland, Trolls, you'd expect someone like that to have an ego, but he didn't. His goal was always to make those around him be better than him. He always encouraged people not to just dream big, but you're going to dream big, but then I'm going to help put you in position to achieve those dreams to where it's not just talking. He was the most intentional plug, the most intentional network, where he was a person that he whispered his friends' rooms and he said his friends' names in rooms that they weren't in. Just a very intentional individual, man. He made everyone feel as though they were big time. He made everyone feel like a superstar, like a celebrity, and it was very genuine. I think sometimes people do it and it's disingenuous, but he always wanted to know who your kids were, who your kids were, where they go on vacation, what were they studying, what were their favorite desserts, what were their favorite foods, where they like to go, how do they like to live, what's their favorite training style. And I was always so impressed. It almost kind of reminded me of Father Fulton in a sense, where it's like, you just genuinely remember all these minor details about every single human and you can connect it. And we would often laugh, me and Sean, at these stories. And it's like, oh, this person's uncle, he summers in the Hamptons, and at the Hamptons, there was a newspaper, and I read about this Coney Island in Long Island, and then I went to the Coney Island in Long Island and met little Sally Mae Walker, who likes to go to Canada, and when she was in Canada, she met Johnny, and Johnny loves apple cider down in Northville, and all these connection points and just intentionality and just raw, organic, man. And he always spoke about the tsunami of faith he experienced when he came to the school, and that's just an everlasting legacy and memory. I want to continue on because not only was he in advancement, he truly cared about the advancement of the people of God, and I'll always remember him in that way and in that fashion.
That brings up a great point. I think people like Charlie, people like a Father Elmer have a way of making you feel like when you talk to them that you're the only person in the room. Nobody else in the world matters. It doesn't matter how busy they are. You literally felt like you were the only person in their lives when you were talking to them, and that's a tradition and a trait that we plan to carry on here at Catholic Central, which leads us beautifully into our next guest. And I'm really excited to bring this gentleman on. I've been watching him from a distance. I respect the heck out of him. He's a local guy from Dearborn Heights, much like myself, which is a fun, not a lot of Dearborn Heights guys running around. He was on the other side of Telegraph, not quite as tough as my side over at Telegraph and Van Born. It was a little tougher in those areas, but he's a Robichaud graduate. He went on from Robichaud after being on the All-State Dream Team, honorable mention All-American, co-record holder with Tyrone Wheatley, who played in the NFL, played at Michigan. Tyrone Wheatley also dunked on me at OW Best, which we talked about earlier, where you were supposed to go to grade school. Then after Robichaud, you went to Western Michigan, multi-year starter at Western Michigan. From there, you jump into the professional world. I know you've been an athletic director, you've been a coach, you're a mentor, you're a father, and you're a fire breather. And when we talk about fire breathers here at Catholic Central, you and I have talked about this a lot. this is exactly why I wanted to bring you on this show. So without further ado, Mr. Jason Malloy. So we'll give him a little clap on here. Excited to have him here.
Well,
Jay, welcome.
Thank you, man. I'm excited to be here. First, I'm going to say I'm not from Dearborn Heights. I'm from Inkster. Right, I grew up in Inkster. I'm on the other side. But I did.
We called it Inkster Heights. In Dearborn Heights, we called it Inkster Heights just to make us feel a little bit tougher in the suburb area.
Yeah. So, no, I'm super excited, man. I was just in the main office and I was talking to the secretary there and just about how we're so aligned in the way that we think about leadership, the way that we think about young people, and the way that we have passion for our job. I know that I could probably say the same thing for you, but there's no other job that I'd rather do than to be able to pour into young people to help them to be our future. And what better way to do that than through sports and through servant leadership? And that's what we do. We put them in a position to have all the things that we've had in life. It's not that we're the greatest or that any of us, I know Chris has been to the NFL, but I didn't make it to the NFL. But what is your goal? What is after NFL? Those are the conversations I talk to our student athletes about, because I want them to have, for me as an athletic director at John Glenn High School, number one, I want them to have the best high school experience, because at the end of the day, that might be it for them, right? So what was their experience? Was it all about winning? Sure, it should be about some winning. Yeah, we want to win. But what qualities did they become better young women, better men, to be better fathers and mothers and husbands as they matriculate into the what we call the real world, right? Outside of our world.
Yeah, they have no idea what the real world is. Like, they're all excited to get out of high school and stuff. And I'm like, guys, you realize you're in the pocket right now. Like, it might get a little bit better, but just be a kid and enjoy being a kid. I feel like kids nowadays have a hard time celebrating the small victories. So when we talk about wins and losses, like, you know, you think of like your football team winning or your football team losing. Well, there's plenty of other victories these kids can celebrate. When you talk about who Jason Malloy is, this is kind of a little thing we do on here called the 2-minute you. For the people that are going to watch this, all 10,000 or 10 of them, whoever it might be, give us the 2-minute you when you talk about Jason Malloy. Like, who are you? What makes you tick? And how did you get here today?
So I was raised by my mother, my grandmother, and my grandfather in that household, and a host of uncles that, you know, poured into me as a young person. I played football and sports since I was young. I played in Westland at the Bailey Center, basketball. I played for the Inkster Raiders growing up, and just had that eye for sports. I just wanted to be around. I played outside. Unlike a lot of kids today where they're inside, it's all AAU, they're on their phone playing the video games. We had video games when I was young. We had Nintendo, right? We had Sega, right? We had those things, but
Chris, do you know what those are? Allegedly.
No, they are. I'm an esports coach. I'm very well versed in all things gaming.
Here we go.
He might know what the Wii is.
Okay, yeah.
You know, but the old one where you had to blow in the cart and slam it down and get it to work.
Oh yeah,
Nintendo 64, right?
No,
double cartridge.
Yes.
You might have to double cartridge it to make sure it was stuck in there.
Duck Hunt, where
you could do that with N64.
Yeah, you're not trying to gaslight me. Yeah, not that crazy.
But no, I think my foundation of being raised by a strong mother who, you know, was an academic person who she came home from her second year in Michigan State to raise me and wanted to do any and everything for me. She was totally in support of what I wanted to do. I was told even when I was in high school, and I said the same thing to my daughters. I got all girls, but hey, listen, don't work. Take care of your business in the classroom, play sports, and we'll take care of the things that you need. And you'll get most of the things that you want, right? But as long as you're taking care of business. And so going through that, I had a lot of mentors through coaching, like the legendary Bob Yauk. I had Clint McDaniel, who was a local guy who was younger, who took me under his wing to take me to go work out and make sure I did those things. I had so many coaches, Mr. Denard, his nickname, Dennis McIntosh, Mark Medlock, all these guys were the village. So this is the same message that I'm talking to our parents now, that our athletic department is the village for your kid. Like, and you're involved in this, right? Like, it's not just us, right? Because sometimes our parents get it confused of, well, yeah, you guys are doing it. No, we're in this together. So there's some accountability for all of us to take part in your child's process, right? And, you know, I got a great opportunity to play. I was a bigger kid to play as a freshman on varsity for football at Robichaud. And that was it. That started the legacy for me at Robichaud High School. I started to get the comparisons to Tyrone Wheatley because I played fullback in defensive end. I played basketball 3 years on varsity as a starter. I know I went to college to play football, but I was a hooper. Now, that was my main thing. I averaged like 22 and like 12 one year and 24 and 14.
Oh, yeah.
I was a hooper.
People don't understand, like, if you don't know MHSAA history or like even from our area, people don't understand the tradition at Robichaud.
Oh, yeah.
Like you had hoop tradition, you had football tradition, but they also forget about the track tradition that they had there too. Like Robichaud was one of the spots.
Yes.
Fun fact, my AAU team, we used to practice at
Oh,
Robichaud.
what was your AAU?
That was AAU Wizards.
Okay.
It was like Vernon Crump.
Oh,
family.
Vernon Crump. That's my guy.
Yeah, we went to middle school together, so we played basketball together over at Marshall Middle School, and then I was with the AAU Wizards briefly. So obviously,
so Vernon is one of my mentors as far as being an athletic director. When I first came back from playing at Western Michigan, he had just taken over as basketball coach, and I had just came back to be assistant football coach. So we connected that way, but we had always kept in touch. And then he eventually became the AD basketball coach for a long period there. And he was one of the guys saying, hey, you need to come back home, excuse me, all the time as a coach. And eventually I came back and I took over for him as athletic director. And he was a great mentor for me.
I think I'm referring to the son now. I think I'm talking about
but
the son.
But his dad used to coach.
Oh, okay,
his dad used to coach the Wizards back in the day.
Okay.
Vernon's a legend.
Yeah.
Still plays slow pitch softball.
Okay.
I always drop a little slow pitch softball stuff on here. Vernon still plays.
Well, he can't do too much anymore because I think he tore his Achilles.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah. Oh, sorry about that.
Well, he's not getting he's not getting any younger. I mean, it's a fact. But he's still I trust me.
Yeah.
We talk about injuries on here quite a bit as well. You talk about the mentors that you had.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously as a fellow scholar athlete, your coaches are your most immediate mentors and then your immediate family. When you got out of college and realized maybe the dream of football was over with, who was it that set you on the path that made you want to be a coach or made you want to get into mentoring kids? Or did you just feel that once you got done with your football journey?
I think I felt it. One of the things I want to touch base on is I had my wife, I've been married for 20 years, but I had her, we have been together since I've been in the 8th grade. So like you talk about a foundational piece in my life, I think that's what helped keep me on the straight and narrow to stay focused and not waver from the path as much. And so she had been there. And once I had graduated, I got injured my last 3 games of my college career. So that kind of set me back. Tried out, didn't make it. And I'll give credit to Gary Darnell, who's my head coach at Western Michigan University. This will kind of put things in perspective. I didn't really know what I wanted to do as far as my career. I was thinking, hey, I want to be a coach / PE teacher, right? That's just what I saw.
It's a great life.
Yeah, not bad, right? Nothing wrong with it. But he was very intentional in taking us to a community service, and he took us to an elementary. We put on our jerseys. We went to read to the kids. Literally that day is when I changed my major as a freshman to say I want to be an elementary teacher. So that set me right on the path to want to be able to pour back into young people because I saw it firsthand. And I had never really had that opportunity. So once I graduated, I teeter-tottered whether I wanted to go to arena football, which I had the opportunity to do. And I just say, you know what, I'm going to start my career. So I started teaching and coaching just right away. I just kind of felt that in my spirit that that's where I was being kind of led to do. And I got an opportunity to coach back at Robichaud High School with Robert Yauk Jr., which is Big Yauk's son. And it was phenomenal just to get back into coaching right away, fresh out of playing, right? I had so much fire breathing out of me at that time. I couldn't even stop, man. I was just on a level 10 with coaching, just with the intensity. But as time went on, I started to develop the skills to be a better coach and not just coach with intensity. But and then I had some of those same people around. My mother was still living. My grandmother was there. I had some of those same people that were from my yesteryear that were still around. Because when you think about Robichaud High School, you think about that village, that community. A lot of people were still there. So they welcomed me back to be able to coach. And I started off as a defensive coordinator. Was then eventually after 2 years, I wound up going to Ypsi Lincoln as head coach for the first time.
It's amazing. Shout out to all the strong moms out there. Chris, we share the same thing with our moms.
1,000%.
I wouldn't even be a quarter of the person I am today without my mom. Mom and dad got divorced when I was 5, then remarried my freshman year at Catholic Central. So from 5 until then, I'm like, this is great. I'm getting spoiled from both sides, like 2 Christmases, and then they got remarried and everything. But life definitely got better,
1,000%.
Chris, for you, we talk a lot about like the journey, and it's different for me too. But when you realized that the football dream was over, did a fire inside of you ignite to where you were like, all right, I need to go back home to see, because you were always present here. You always came home when you were in college, when you were with the Bengals or the Chargers, or whether you were in the USFL, UFL, you always came back here. But was there something that clicked for you where you're like, I need to work in this school. I need to pour back into the people and the kids more?
I always lean back on the word of God, and I believe one of my favorite scriptures is freely you were given, so freely you give. And I remember a conversation I had with your brother, my brother, our brother, Brian Cheney, and he was a guidance counselor and a mentor. And he always poured into me, helped me academically, because, when you come from public school to Catholic school, it can be quite the transition. And I believe after all the value, all the extra time, all the workouts, all the free food, all the invites over, just pouring into me, mentoring to me, he told me, he goes, just as a freshman, he goes, I know you're going to go on to do great things. And unlike a bunch of other people that you're going to meet who aren't going to pour into you nearly as much as I have, I'm not going to ask you for anything. The only thing I ask of you is that you take what I did for you and you do it for another young man. And I told him, matter of fact, instead of doing it for 1, I'm going to do it for 1 million. And so that kind of helped just spark me coming back here, along with my speaking career, along with writing a book that's in over a dozen school districts. It's just, I always believed in proving my mentors right. And that's right in alignment along with, Mr. Babicz, who is someone who always taught me kind of the skill set of pouring into everyone and not just holding someone's value at them being super smart or super athletic or being, Mr. Popular. Because at the end of the day, you being an AD, you've seen the most random kids make it out. So to prejudge someone as a freshman or a 7th or as an 8th grader, one of my favorite scriptures is, you never judge a thing out of season. And I believe a lot of people had judged me out of season. And then obviously, once, God plan began to unravel and blessings began to come running in for me, there were a lot of people who, mistreated me that now were, oh, can you come and talk to my kids? Or, oh, can you come do this? Can you come and do that? And I always believe that God put me on this world to use my platform in a very positive way. When you guys grew up, it was like the big football player. Where's your lunch money? You shove him in the locker. He dates the hot cheerleader. And when you come to an all-boys school, that dream or that vision quickly changes, because there are no girls and there is no shoving in the locker rooms at a God-fearing school. There shouldn't be. And I always watch this movie called High School Musical, right? And I write about it in my book, and it's this thing I call the Troy Bolton effect. And what I loved about Troy Bolton in High School Musical is that he was a guy who was tall, going D1, great grades, did all the community service, but instead of being a bully, he changed the narrative and was a guy that poured into everyone around him and made sure that whether they were in the band, whether they wanted to be a chef making creme brulee, whether they liked to dance or sing, he lifted up the people around him. So he used his clout and his popularity to be like, instead of making fun of him, I'm going to be best friends with him. And so I saw that coming into high school, and I always knew that I would always use my popularity and my influence and my natural leadership to lift others up. Kind of similar to what Christ did, right? I'm coming for the least of thee. I'm not going for the people in the high places. I'm coming to serve the least of thee, those that really need it. And so I've always just taken that position in life is I'm going to come and help the people that already need it. You guys being, powerhouse athletic directors, you guys both know everybody quick to want to train a 4 or 5 star so you can post it. Very few people want to really go through the grit, the grind, the delayed gratification of showing love, effort, energy, intentionality to the kid that may need a little bit more extra time, right? A little bit more extra love. The tree or the fruit or the vegetable that may not be in its proper season. And I believe that there's a lot of blessings that come with it, and it feels good. And being around men like you guys, I've even had the opportunity of seeing you serving at wrestling meets growing up, basketball meets where you showing love, you making sure this school good, that school good. One thing about you guys that I love is that you guys never act weird to your opposing teammates. Not teammates, opposing schools. Oh, y'all got some water? Okay, bet. Oh, the trainers, y'all good? Okay, bet. Everybody seated, cool. Your family in? Okay, your wife good? She got the VIP? Okay, cool. And I've always admired that about you guys because your hospitality from both of you guys is very, very unmatched, man. And I just love kind of observing that from afar and up close. So.
Well, Jason this weekend hosted Divine Child against Harper Woods because they were going to have no fans at the Harper Woods game. It just is what it is. So I know you stepped up to host that game.
Yeah.
And I know Chris Laney at Divine Child obviously really well. I know Rod over at Harper Woods. But the comments I got from them and how you approach that game as if it was one of your own games says a lot about you. You haven't, I can't say you've bounced around to a lot of different schools because you haven't. You've been at a lot of different schools that have different cultures. And knowing where you've been, honestly, each school you've been at has been different than the other one, which isn't really the case. You have an opportunity now at Westland John Glenn. We talked a little bit about it before. I know the history of John Glenn, of the Rockets. Plenty of friends that had played there. I know the Sheffer family really well, who's still very involved, and they have their opinions of John Glenn, and they think of, not that they're blowing dust off of the yearbooks, but John Glenn is a place that has a ton of tradition, not only as a school, but in the athletic department.
Yes.
For you to be,
I almost went there.
You did?
Yeah.
They would have had way more tradition if you would have went there, for sure.
I went to Marshall for 7th and 8th grade.
Okay.
Yeah, I almost went to Glenn.
Wow.
We plucked them out of there.
We missed the boat.
Thank goodness. But at a place like John Glenn, to where coming in, I've got something I can build on with that past history. What's been the biggest challenge for you to get everybody on board and to celebrate those little victories? And I know, like you and I said too, people want to win.
Yes.
But I know you're big on making them celebrate those small victories. And I've seen you start, everything from the nutrition station for your athletes to you diving into the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, which in a public school, that can be a slippery slope to kind of walk a little bit because some people get in their feels about incorporating faith in a public school environment. So for you, what's been the biggest challenge and maybe even the biggest victory so far?
Well, I think, like you said, we have a great rich tradition. I talked to Chuck Gordon a lot, which he is a legend, and he loves John Glenn because of the time that he's put there, and he's impacted so many kids, so many people, so many adults. The Scheffler family, great family. We have one of the Schefflers, he still works in our building and still coaches, and we just have a great relationship. I think the community itself is waiting to explode with our sports to get back. We're not who we used to be, but we're not the same as who we've been of recent time. And so what I've been trying to do, just pour into our culture. I think one of the greatest victories we've had is I was able to start the Hall of Fame. So, you talk about the great tradition. It's kind of like you could talk about that at the bar or over at the barbecue or something like that. Now we have something specific in place. And this year will be our 3rd year of the John Glenn Athletic Hall of Fame. Phenomenal. And I don't know if you know, but Lloyd Carr used to coach at John Glenn, and we brought him back with Chuck Gordon and all the greats. It's just been phenomenal, the love that I have gotten from being an athletic, because I know what it takes. I know that tradition matters, right? Like when I have conversations with our kids, I'm messing around with them all the time, and we'll bring up Robichaud, and I'm like, hey, listen, I'm at John Glenn, but I'm still a Bulldog, right? Because that's home for me, right? Because it means a lot. So for our community, John Glenn means a lot. We were somewhere, and it's my job to help our coaches try to navigate to get back to that place. So again, like one of the things that I talked about, it's hard to find good coaches, right? Like it's really hard to find good coaches because we have a high expectation as an athletic director, as an institution, that for me, one of my favorite quotes and what I live by is people don't care what you know until they know that you care. Right? Like I want our kids to know that I care about them. I want our coaches to know that I genuinely care about them. This is not my job. This is what I do. This is a ministry for me. Right? So when you look at it as a ministry, it's totally different as it pertains to being a job. Job is something I get up, I got to do. No, I get up, I try to breathe that fire. Now, there's certain days where it's harder than others, right? But that's the same way ministry is. If you know anything about ministry, most of the time ministry is in the mud anyway. right? And so you got to find a way to get out of it. You got to find those nuggets, those golden nuggets that you can find every day. I had a kid to me one day say, Coach Malloy, you're a real AD. I said, what does that mean, right? But their point was, you come to our games, you talk to us, you know, I'm on the swim team or I'm on the golf team and you came out here. Nobody's ever done that. So for me, those are the small victories that that we have within our profession. And sometimes we never hear it, right? You know, when we deal with normally with our community, you only hear the issues, right? You know, this is the problem, this is the problem. But when we can get parents and people to come by and say, thank you, or you get a little card or a piece of candy on your desk to say thank you for what you're doing, to me, it's well worth it.
So rare now, though. Chris and I were talking, I texted Chris last week and we talked about it on here, just struggling with, like, I don't know where in society we got away from just the smallest thank you or I see you. Like, that's why I'll reach out to you randomly and be like, dude, I love what you're doing. Like, I see it, like, keep going. Or if Chris does something, people just like to be seen. It doesn't have to be anything major. Like you said, you going out to a swim meet, or Chris went out to our ski regional last year. He went out to the tennis regional this year. The funny story.
Spent the whole entire weekend up in Grand Rapids at our esports.
Let me peek around this. Let me peek around this trophy, and we'll get to this in a second. Here's a classic Chris story. So I call Chris out about a swim. I have to. You know we're honest on here.
Brothers, man.
So Chris and I are talking about a swim. We had a big swim meet or something. I was like, I went to the swim meet. Chris starts talking to our coach. He's like, oh yeah, I really felt like the 50 free, blah, blah, blah. Knowing damn well he wasn't there. And he's like, oh, I was there. I said, Chris, you're 6'5", 320 pound dude at a swim meet. We would have saw you.
And a brother. Ain't no brothers or 6'6" or 300 swim meet.
We
Sean, am I right?
I wouldn't.
Sean.
And it's not like it was a jam packed, like, you know, there's not 1,000 people there. So I'm sure if Chris would have walked in, I would have seen him there. But that's the little things, though, like for our swimmers to see him, and then they'll come dap him up in the hallway, or like if I go somewhere, that's, like you said, that's the best part about our job, because you're not a swivel chair leader. Like, what a great compliment. Like, you're a real AD. That's a phenomenon. That, to me, like, that's what it should be about. You're a relationship builder. You're out in the trenches with your people. You touched on how sometimes you come in and you don't feel like you can breathe that fire at the level you always want to. One thing we always talk about on here is balance. Now, you're at Glenn, not rebuilding tradition, but building upon a tradition that you guys already have. You got a family, you're going out to volleyball matches, you're posting stuff for Rennie Volleyball. I saw they had a great season. Yeah. How do you find balance in your own home life? And you're still with your wife that you've been with since 8th grade, right?
Yes.
So how do you find that fire-breathing balance in your own home life and still do what you do with the MHSAA? NIAAA, MIAAA. Don't think I know. I know what committees you're on. I'm like, I got to be nice to Jason just in case he ends up on one committee. I really got to call him a favor. But how do you find that balance?
I think you know, as we talk about balance in our world as a coach or in sports, I think if we found what it really is, we'd all be rich, right? Because I don't think there's really a true balance. I think it's being able to put aside what's important to you. When you put aside what's important to you and for you, I think then you find a balance. So, you know, it's a continuous grind being an AD all the time. We're meeting the needs and the expectations of other people all the time. When you do it for the right reason, right? Like we talk about on here, servant leadership. So we're serving. But I think we can't forget about our family. I had a coach tell me a long time ago, it's one of my good friends and mentors, and he said when he started coaching somewhere in the 80s, 90s, he had a couple daughters that he grinded so hard. Now, when you look back at his teams, he had phenomenal athletes that went on to college and NFL and all of that, and it was great. But he said his daughters missed out. And I always thought about that. You know, my kids were with me when I was coaching, a varsity head coach. They were in a stroller, they were there. But I vowed to myself that I wouldn't let that go, that I wouldn't continue to build into them. So when I first became an athletic director in 2014 at Robichaud, we didn't have all the resources. So I had to go to the Gordon's Food, pick up all the stuff, count all the bottles and the chips. My wife and my kids and my father-in-law, God rest his soul, Tim Benton, they all were there, right? And they were serving. So not being at home, they were with me at work, so it was like I was at home. So through their earlier years in their life, that balance was created because they were there. Now, as they got older and got more involved in the sports, it started to separate. So what I began to do was to make sure I was kind of intentional about my time with making sure I showed up to their games, made the sacrifice to do things that was necessary for them. So even now, like one of the things that keeps me balanced is working out, which I know that you guys still work out. If I can't work out, I'm not balanced. I'm not right. I can't go. So, but
Sean works out too.
Okay.
Yep, Sean, we don't mean to forget. We know you work out. We weren't just trying to say the three of us work out and you're some big fatty over there behind the microphone. We know you work out too.
He probably the leanest person in
maybe. But I don't know when you guys work out, but I have to get up at 4:45.
Oh, Jay.
I have to get up at 4:45 and I get up and get to the gym by 5, get home. I got to get my kids to school. And that's fine. That'll be on my podcast that we'll talk about 30-minute drive. And I get to work. That starts my day off. Now, what I've recently added over the last 6 to 8 months is our church has a morning prayer, which was done once a week, but now it's every day. So I try to get on the prayer line in the morning to start my day off the right way, right? So I was giving my life to working out first. No, you got to give it to the Lord first, right? So now that's part of my routine. And then I try to be intentional about having date time with my wife, trying to give my kids attention when they need it. Now I got a 17, 15-year-old and a 5-year-old. So all those attentions look different. And just trying to balance it. But I to answer your question, I don't know. 2 girls, 1 boy? No.
You got all
3
girls?
girls. Ariana is the senior at Detroit Renaissance. Jada is my my middle daughter who's in the 10th grade, and Zuri is my kindergartner coming up the rear.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a question that I always
5 years old?
Yes.
I'm gonna ask you a question that I always love to ask athletic directors. I always ask him this, so don't say anything. I'm gonna ask you. So, as an athletic director, as a coach, serious question: when your wife comes to a game, right, and she gets concessions, do you consider that date night?
No.
Okay. No. Like, you're at the game, she courtside, she got the pretzels.
No.
Okay.
No.
He was asking.
You do realize every person you've asked that to.
I'm always curious. It's like technically you're at a game, you're saying courtside, concessions.
I'm no AD, but I'm a married man, and I just laughed out loud.
Let's add a little context. Chris brought a date to a game last year, and I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I brought my date here." I said, "You brought your date to a CC football game?" He goes, "Well, I gave her free concessions." And I'm thinking that does not count as a date, but she had fun.
Yeah, like the student
section was crazy. Yeah.
I think you could do it on a date, but I think, like he said, when you're married, they know that lifestyle. They don't want to go. They'll come support, but that's not date night.
Okay, so can you leverage a banquet because it's technically kind of formal? You got the dress on, you got the suit.
I don't know if I could. I did take my wife to the cheer banquet last year. She had a good time. It's a timeout on the night. I don't know if it's considered quite a day night, but we had a good time.
I was trying to get the best practices from the legends. That's all.
I have
the best practices.
Dude, I have no idea. Like my kids are only 10 and 7, so there's no. You got built-in babysitters at home, so. That makes things a little bit easier for date night for us.
That did start to help a little bit as time. Because what happens is, and you know this, like you spend your life now trying to do what's best for your kids, right? But you're doing what's best for the kids at your job. And then what I don't want to lose, and I've been trying to be very intentional, is trying to carve out that time for me and my wife. And it's hard. Because now we got a senior, like we're trying to get her ready for college, and she was in her senior year for volleyball. Like it's just go, go, go.
Great season.
Yeah,
had a great season.
Great season for Detroit Renaissance volleyball, and she was a captain and a leader on a team that had high talent. But now we have to find that space for us. And you know, her going off to college next year is gonna our household is gonna get smaller. And so what I've always heard is that you can't just give so much to the kids that you don't spend time with each other. And that's just a work in progress, right? Like me and my wife, we pretty much grew up together. So it's still a learning process for us to get to that point to where we're spending enough time with each other so we build into each other as well.
You know how it is too on those nights. Sometimes you feel like you get to high five each other, maybe give each other a kiss on the cheek, and you're back out the door.
Yep.
It's finding that balance for the wife. What I've tried to do with our kids is make them understand like that's my number one. It's not you guys. Now my boys know they're loved, but I want them to see that love in action. They got to see me model that with my wife.
They have to, and me and my wife just had that conversation about that kids don't do what you tell them; they do what they see, right? And so, for me being a girl dad, right, I want my kids to be able to actually see kind of husband that they look forward to. It doesn't have to look like me, but the qualities and the way that I treat my wife is something that I'm very conscious of, be able to help my children, my girls understand. So the other piece that's really in that balance piece for me and our family is church. And that's a staple for us. Our faith is something that we all take very serious. And so from my leadership and my involvement in church, my kids have started FCA at Detroit Renaissance. They're involved in their dance ministry at our church, praise dance and praise and worship. And they have taken the mantle. And so I'm very impressed with how they have been leading their lives and what we have been able to do as parents to impact them. So along with that balance, it's really, we're spread really thin. But at the end of the day, I tell my wife, because sometimes we're like, man, we're up for another volleyball thing. It's 6 a.m. We got to get there. And then we're there till 6 p.m. What else will we be doing, right? We get an opportunity to pour into our kids. We get to be able to watch it. And now as my daughter has finished, like, dang, we don't get to watch that no more if she doesn't play again.
Like that. It's amazing how quick it goes. We'll get back to that, but I do have to touch on this little. This is one of the first episodes I haven't been able to see Chris's smiling face, but it is blocked by the SMIFA 2025 Freshman Football Championship Super Bowl trophy. Put some respect on the Walled Lake Braves program.
Yeah.
Oh, Sean, I like that. I like that. I do want to say one thing. We had our banquet last night, and you guys know this. You see people in a football uniform or it doesn't matter, whatever athletic team they're on, and then you see them outside of it. I don't know how we won a single football game with the goofballs we have on this third and fourth, including my own son. 30 kids on the team, not one normal kid on the team. But what was really special, and I want to share this with you guys, and Chris knows because this is just how I am, my messaging coaching there was very similar to what it was here, and that's just leading with love. And it was really cool to see our third and fourth grade team have that explode throughout the rest of our Walled Lake Braves program. Because we had the flag team practiced right by us. JV would be here, varsity would be here, all on one plot of land over at Walled Lake Western. And it was really cool to see that positivity trickle from our level. And it's not to say the other ones weren't positive, but we overdid it. No yelling, nothing. Positive responses to everything. And it was really gratifying to see that spill out into other programs. And like you said, Jay, people do like to be seen. So to have a kid come up to you and say, hey, I appreciate that positivity, or a parent like, hey, I saw you put your arm around my son who doesn't play at all and tell him he's just as big a part of the team. Like, that was one of the greatest experiences I've gone through. And I wanted to share that with the two of you guys, because Chris is part of the Braves family. He gave him a big speech during Super Bowl week, and it was awesome. So, Jay, for you being a dad and being an athletic director, so you're sitting there watching Rennie volleyball, right? Is it tough for you to sit there and just be a dad, or are you like me to where you're looking around the facility and you're like, ooh, that light's out right there. They might need to get that pad replaced. That net has a rip in it. This. Can you just remove yourself and just be a dad?
I cannot.
Oh, I was praying to God you were going to say that.
I cannot.
I can't watch a regular athletic event and be like that. And I wonder what that costs.
No, it's so hard, right? Because we're always on and we're always thinking, I'm watching kids walk by themselves in the building.
I'm watching security. I'm watching the ticket takers.
Everything is like, it's always on. But later this year, what I started to do was to put on the dad hat. Ernie Muscat over at Livonia Stevenson, we typically do a volleyball tournament at Detroit Renaissance every year. They go out there, and it was at the beginning of the year, and he grabbed my daughter. He said, hey, because he knew her. He said, listen, whatever happens this year, don't worry about it. Just be in the moment. And at that time, I was like, you know what? I need to enjoy every moment with my daughter, right? Like, every moment. So every game we went to, we took photos, we were having fun. And I tried to keep my dad hat on and enjoy it as a dad, because we don't. And it was hard, like having, first of all, it's hard to coach your kids, right? They don't want to listen to you.
Oof.
But when you have girls, it's a little bit different as well because I couldn't separate being dad and coach because what I see as a coach, I always see what can you do better, right? That's the mentality, right? You go to practice, you turn on the film, you're looking at individual, you're looking at team, you're watching you don't really get celebrated on all the great things that you do because you did it well. So I was always on like, hey, you could do this better. And it didn't really respond to that. It didn't really improve her. And so I had to take some steps back and learn that, you know what, you just kind of need to be dad. It took me a while, right? Because that coach is in me, but I wanted her to know that I embraced her as her dad and supported her. So that was time in making of me evolving as a dad, a sports dad.
It's tough.
It's hard.
I complained to Chris a lot this year. There were certain points where I'd say something to my son Brooks, and of course I'm coaching. It's daddy ball. He's a quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Like
Daddy ball.
Exactly. Strong safety, starting at quarterback.
Yeah.
Of course, I got daddy ball.
Out there, Shador, you know what I'm saying?
You know he's giving the ball right back to the ref. But it's interesting though, because I would say something to him and I wouldn't yell at him, say something to him, and he would give me that look. Another coach would come right over, say the same thing, and he'd be like, "Oh, great idea, coach." And I'm like, I know this game. You do know I know the game of football. Like, your mom is not going to show you, no offense to my wife, Lauren, she's tried to show my son a 3-point, and I'm like, in what world did you ever block anybody in any form of football? Yeah. Like baseball, football, or baseball you can stick to a little bit. She played softball at Michigan, but let me handle football. But it is, you're right. It's coaching your own kid is and it's hard to remove the coach hat and the dad, even on the car ride home, which I constantly preach. What is that car ride home like? I think of like, for some of our kids, it's no different. Like, I used that saying earlier, same stuff, different toilet.
Yep.
I know the car ride home for some of our kids is probably one of the worst experiences of their week. And I know it's the same for your kids too. When you talk about the messaging you want your coaches to preach to your kids, what are some of the consistencies, some of the things you have to hear when you talk about the culture at Westland John Glenn?
Well, again, it's about relationships. Like for me, it's building those relationships. And then our mantra there is win forever. Like at the end of it, so you win in the classroom, win on the playing field. We added win in the weight room and ultimately win in the game of life. Like that's it.
Love it.
That's everything that we talk about in a nutshell. We want our coaches to be about. Like it's the positivity, it's the building up. It's all of those things that create better young men and young women. That's what I want. The winning is part of the process. I don't hound coaches about wins and losses. That's not, to me, that's not the forefront of everything. Do we want to win? Absolutely. I'm the biggest competitor. Listen, I'll tell you this. I went to the camp and I went to the Minnesota camp. And when I was in high school, I won the one-on-one trophy. I beat everybody at the camp, right? I am a absolute competitor. If we play curveball, I'm trying to beat you in it. We playing paper football, I want to win. I don't care.
Listen, you're starting to show your age a little bit with curveball and paper football.
Yes,
curveball, you guys have no idea what curveball is, do you?
Talking about.
I know about paper football.
Game. You got the good ball too. If you got a good ball,
man, you got to have a nice curve. I might have to do the podcast on what curveball is.
We had real curves. All these other soft neighborhoods had the little. You couldn't even play on that one.
You couldn't play. But go ahead. No, go ahead. You're good.
No, I was just saying. Well, one of the things that we're really big on here is just like career exploration, and one of our really big initiatives is field to boardroom. So we bring in a lot of different of our former athletes who went on and kill it in, whether they're a doctor, lawyer, entrepreneur, working in corporate, and so just career readiness and presenting options is something that's really, really important to me, especially when it comes back to the culture. So I hear you speak about that a lot, about the well-rounded man and woman, right? That winning forever really, really stuck with me, man. I love that. So as an AD, as a father, as a man of God, what are some of the things that you're doing to ensure that your athletes are ready for a life beyond the field, beyond the track, beyond the court, kind of similar to our field to boardroom initiatives? How do you go about preparing those young men and women, in your case? So many times people speak about, in high school, majority of you guys, this is your last time playing. I think, we forget the numbers. Like in reality, only about 1 or 2% of y'all may ever touch a stick, a ball, a pool ever again. So how do you go about being intentional and also explaining that to them without kind of hurting their feelings or their dreams or aspirations.
So we like to have one-on-one conversations too. Like, right? Like my door is always open for our kids. And I say that, but if I had these cameras in our office and my secretary, who is our competitive cheer coach, Coach Brittany, she's phenomenal. She's a fire-breathing coach as well. Like, I mean, you would love her. I mean, our door's open and it's 24/7. Kids are in and out. Why? Because of relationships. So we have these conversations personally one-on-one. Like I'm talking to kids. And I think that was one of my greatest things was be able to identify talent, but also keep it real. So part of my journey as well, and I'm gonna just add to it, like I was recruited by a lot of Big Ten schools. I didn't have a whole lot of help of people that tell me about the recruiting process. Although I had a legendary coach, I had no help during the recruiting process. I absolutely love Western Michigan. Man, that's my second home. But I had Indiana, Illinois. I had some of those Big Ten schools knocking on the door. And in my mind, I had played fullback my whole career, but my senior year, I played linebacker. I'm like, I'm a linebacker. That's what I'm going to do. I'm getting all these other letters. And, you know, it's just like from one school to the next. You graduate from here, you graduate from there. Your network is just different, right? And that pushed me into wanting to coach, that I want to be able to help young people understand what that process was. So I have transparent conversations. Like a kid told me last year at John Glenn, he doesn't know why he's not being recruited. I'm like, man, do you got film? And what does that film look like? Have you done everything necessary? Like, what are your numbers wise? Do you know what the linebackers that are playing, what their numbers look like?
Do you even go through the clearinghouse yet?
Yeah. So we do that on our final forms. Now I put that on our final form so everybody sees a video about the clearinghouse or the eligibility center. We work with a company called Honest Game that shows them all of their stuff about, you know, where
best.
they are.
Those guys are great.
It's so phenomenal. So we have a lot of resources that pour into them so they have no excuse. Now, the next part is being able to expose them to other job opportunities and things like that. But I bring back alumni and we have our coaches talking about these things because the reality is that they will not play. That's the reality. It's more of them or us that are not going to play than the ones that will. But I think when you're transparent with young people, they appreciate that. Because it doesn't take that much to build relationships with young people. They really just want us to be honest. They want us to know that you care, right? So when you pull them aside and say, hey, man, come here. Or hey, young lady, come here. Give me 5. What's up? How was the game last night? Blah, 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 and so. And so then they's like, hey, that person actually cares about me. And I've had that. And even within the ministry, my pastor has been my pastor since we've been in high school. And but as I've matriculated and moved in the church and to taking on leaderships within the church, my pastor was very intentional. I didn't know, I got to tell this story. So I didn't know how to fish because I never went fishing, right? And maybe about 10, 11.
Not a lot of water by us in the Inkster, Dearborn Heights area. You had the creek in Dearborn Heights. That was about, or the Rouge maybe.
Yes. But you can go, right? But nobody really took me. So I remember I was sitting on my couch. He calls me and said, hey, come out here to fish. He was in Belleville off of Bridge Road. So I go over there and he's like, throw it in. So I throw it in. He's like, reel it in. And so boom, I got a fish on it. I'm like 5 years old now. I'm like, it's on there. He's like, reel it in. So I reel the fish in. And I got a silver bass. I'm like, oh my God. I call my wife on the FaceTime. I got a fish. She's like, oh my God, right? So I throw it back in. Boom, I got another one. I'm like, oh my God. So I didn't realize when the silver bass run, you could throw a piece of paper towel out there and they'll bite it, right? You can double hook it and bring them in. And so for the next 5 years, I spent time with my pastor going to fish in the morning. We were going to Novi. We were going to Ann Arbor, Belle Isle. We were going to all these places fishing, right? But during this time, I loved fishing, but really what I didn't understand is that he was pouring into me. He was explaining to me and showing me the dynamics of the church and mentorship and all this. So now when I look back, he did it just like Jesus did. Made me a fisher of men. And so now my focus went from just coaching, right? Because my thing was, man, I want to be a coach. I want to be in the school. I want the kids to come back, just like Chris came back to the school, and we coach kids and we send them off in life. And that's what I wanted. And I couldn't see it. When we talk about how it's not my will, but his will, right? But I couldn't really understand that because it was coaching, because I was passionate about it. But I love the Lord, but this was his will for my life. No, it wasn't. all of a sudden it started to shift to me being an AD. And I'm like, I really don't want to be an AD. Like, hold on, I want to still coach because I got these kids, right? And they're my team and they respond to me because I'm with them all the time. And the Lord was like, no, I got something else for you. I couldn't understand it. Like, but then I used to make these comments to people that used to talk to me. They're like, hey, what you doing now, Jay? Where you at? I'm like, oh, I'm just the AD over at such and such, such and such. They like, just the AD. And I was unintentionally saying that. I was not saying that on purpose. It was because I valued being a coach more than I did the AD. But as time went on, I began to understand that your job, our job as ADs is to coach coaches, and your outreach is going to be more than that football team. It's going to be the equestrian team. It's going to be the swim team. It's going to be the cheer squad. It's going to be basketball. And I began to understand it. So as I surrendered my own personal will to be this great football coach, it got me to be an athletic director and to settle into and I've heard you say this, but Jesus did it the best. He led with love. He led with love. And when you lead with love, I think you set everything aside and you're doing the right thing. So now I think I know that I'm living in my purpose, that I'm doing the things that God has ordained me to do. And until he tells me to do something different, I ain't moving.
Well, it's like we love the quote too, and we use it endlessly here. God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called.
Yes, sir.
There's no doubt in my mind. I don't think anybody chooses to become an athletic director. Like, I don't think you're in high school, like, I can't wait. There's plenty of kids here that are like, Mr. Babicz, I'm coming for your job. I'm like, come take it right now. You want to come see what it's like? You can start right now.
Yeah.
We'll see you in 3 days when you're bald like me and you're losing your mind. But I feel like you're really called into professions like being an athletic director, being a coach of coaches, being a mentor. Chris jumping in with both feet to coach esports. We're in a meeting with Syracuse. He's telling me how, it gutted our team. We couldn't go to this national event. I looked over, I was like, when did you start coaching esports? Like, but that's the thing. Like, it's getting out of your comfort zone and jumping into something you feel called to do. Like, there isn't a single day I get here to where I don't walk in that. Then there's some days you got to have that talk. Before you open that door, you take that deep breath and you're like, all right, I got to flip it right now. I'm not feeling 100%. But there isn't a day that I don't walk in here that I'm not excited to get in the trenches with our people. Tell the band how great they did. And I guarantee you're the same way in the hallway. You build that relationship with that offshoot kid. They don't, like, especially with the AD. Oh, you know my name? It's like, yeah, I know your name. Like, you're part of the family here. It doesn't matter if you're an athlete or not. Chris, a term that you reintroduced to my life, and Jay, you touched right on it. Radical candor. You have those honest conversations with your athletes and with your coaches because they know you care about them and you've poured back into them, right? Do you notice situations to where you need more people to pour back into you? Because you're a bucket filler. Chris is a bucket filler. Me too, Sean. Sometimes you're so busy filling other people's buckets, they forget to fill yours back up. Do you ever find yourself in that situation? And if you do, how do you pull yourself out of kind of getting in your own feels?
I think that's part of that balance piece, right? That we talked about earlier. Man, I think we do so much filling up that we forget about ourselves. So I'm very intentional about the mentors that I have, people like yourself, people like my own personal pastor, Hiram McBurrows Jr., one of my best friends, Damon Williams. He's a principal. We've been together since middle school. Like, we touch base with each other. You know, I don't go out, but every once in a while I'll go grab a bite to eat with him, and just that's that time. And then, you know, I think ultimately, like, I do some reading, you know, to fill back up. You know, obviously the word is the best word, but sometimes you listen to podcasts and things that reaffirm what you're doing, because the scripture says, don't grow weary in well doing. Right.
And Chris loves that. Chris
Galatians 6:9, brother.
Yeah. It some days it feels like, how can I go any further? And that's why he said he will leave his spirit, right? That we couldn't do it on our own. And some days when you're dealing with people, you're dealing with, let's say, administration or whoever, right? Sometimes people don't see it how we see it. And it doesn't mean that we're right. But I think when you wear your heart on your sleeve and you lead with love, right? It's not going to always be the popular stance that you take. But I think in the back of our mind, and why we do it for kids and for young people. And so, it's not always the popular thing. But I think it's hard, every day to be filled. But that's why you need great relationships. That when you come home to your wife, like that doesn't need to be another place where there's strife, right? There needs to be love in the household. There needs to be love with the kids, and that we do have to find times to unplug and get away. And I don't. I'm gonna be honest, and I'm still trying to find it. Is like I need to totally unplug and get away. My wife is like, if you don't put that computer down, I'm like, you don't really understand. I'm the one that's in charge. Like, and if I don't do it, it's on me. Right.
I'm happy you admitted that and didn't come on here and be like, oh, yeah, I'm able to unplug. Last week, we had Jeremy on here, Jeremy Barkey, and I have a book for you from him, obviously, The Conqueror's Way, which you probably already read. But he was on here and we were talking about that too. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do this new thing on Sundays where I take my phone, put it in our dresser drawer, and I don't take it back out. And it's just going to be a day for me to rest like the Lord rested on Sunday. Mm-hmm. I did it for 10 minutes. All of a sudden, my phone starts blowing up and I'm just like, email from school, email from this game coming up. And it's like, but like you said, you have to be intentional about refilling your own bucket. Yeah. Chris will laugh at this. They have the picture of all the ADs in the hallway on our wallpaper. Every single day I walk by, kiss my own picture. Every day the kids dog me out. Mr. Babicz, I can't. I'm like, guys, you have to be your own biggest fan first. Like I have to love myself before I can pour love into you, Sean, Chris, anybody else in these hallways. So, and I'm intentional when I tell them that. Yeah. So that's why I feel like I was so excited to have it. And we've been talking about this for 3 years. Yeah. Me and Jason were like, oh, I'm starting a podcast. No, I'm going to start one. And then we're like, all right, we're kind of doing one. Yeah. Let's work on it. So to have you on here and the type of person that you are and the servant leader you are, and I'm telling you right now, if there's a way for me to steal you out of John Glenn, I would already have done it. But don't think that that's not part of. Once again, though, that's not my plan. That could be
Lord's plan.
That could be the Lord's plan. But I feel like our frequencies have always matched each other. Like the way you move with the kids at John Glenn is just so inspiring because I understand what you're doing and I see it and we see it. We have a special section on the podcast before we wrap it up called Hammer Time. And that's where we challenge. We always, obviously, Chris and I have a ton of stuff that we always use, but this is where we challenge our guests and then each other just to give one nugget that might touch somebody that's listening out there. One takeaway that Jason Malloy can give the father, the husband, the administrator, the former scholar athlete, the current scholar athlete, excuse me, because you're still always an athlete, but one nugget that the people can take away that'll motivate them.
Ooh,
that's a good one. You can throw a couple in there.
But one, I would say on my spiritual journey in life is for everybody to be led by the Lord. I mean, I think as people, we think we know what we want, but God has a perfect plan. So that's Jeremiah 29, verse 11. For I know the thoughts that I have towards you, thoughts are good and not evil, to give you an expected end. Like he already knows. He knows every hair on our head. Well, I don't have that much hair anymore, but he knew all of them.
When we had hair.
Yeah, he knew them all.
There was a time.
Yeah. So trusting in him, I think really, honestly, to guide your path. I think a lot of people say it today in today's society, but they don't really live by it. Check in with the Lord before you make a move. And I think that in our profession as an athletic director or coaches, anytime you're in leadership, you got to understand that you need to lead with love. And people don't care what you know until they know that you care. Nobody care. You care less about me if I didn't care about you. You can. But when I show you that I care about you, we always talk in the sports realm of a kid running through the brick wall for you. How do you get that kid to do that? When you show them you care for them. When they believe you, when they believe in you. Now, will you win every kid that way? May not, but just show the kid that you care, and they'll buy in. So I really appreciate you guys. This is an authentic conversation. I hope to have you guys on the Win Forever podcast.
Absolutely,
I'm super excited, 100%. Man, to be here. 100%. You guys are doing a phenomenal thing, and I think this is a lost art to talk about the little things, talk about the leadership that each one of us bring to life. And the Lord is just kind of showing me this right now. Like at the end of the day, we have a birthday and a death day. And then what do we do in between there? What legacy are we leaving? Did we create more disciples? Matthew 28, right? Go out and make disciples. What kind of disciples are we making?
Have you ever read that poem, The Dash?
I've heard of it.
It's about that dash in between the year you were born and the year you pass away. What do you do with that dash in the middle? Miss Faye told me about that in our alumni office. She gave me a copy of it. It's one of the best things you'll ever read, too. What do you do with that dash in the middle, and how do you love people and positively affect them? I love that.
I heard this. I went to the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association last week. As part of the 5-state exchange with our MIAAA. And the guy in FCA, he had a meeting and for the breakfast, and he said, he had everybody stand up and tell, do you remember your great-grandfather or great-grandmother, right? Name. And people sat down. Said, who can remember their great-great? And it was like 1 or 2 people left. And then he ultimately said, listen, as much stuff as you're doing right now, you will be forgotten.
That's deep.
That was sobering, right? Like the podcast, everything
though.
that we do, all this, like at some point we'll be forgotten. But what are you doing right now to impact the world around you? What are you doing for Christ? Because that's the only thing that will last into eternity. So it's all this is great. Like, it's cool. But the only thing that matters at the end of the day is what we do for the kingdom. So I would encourage all of us to continue making an impact, but do it for the Lord. He said that if he be lifted up, he would draw all men unto him.
I love it. Chris?
Anyone that knows me knows outside of the beautiful word of God, I'm not much of a quoter of people. I always tell people I became a professional speaker and author because I prefer to quote myself. But in honor of the late and great Charles Syracuse, may God rest his heart and keep his family in your prayers. One of the things he would always say to people as we would go around and speak to different businesses, schools, or potential shareholders is that the magic you're seeking is in the work that you're avoiding.
Yes, sir.
And what he meant by that, I'm going to unbundle that, is if you want to be great, you have to do great things. You can't be average. You can't be subpar and expect greatness. If you want to be in the 1%, you can't do what the 99 are doing. As human beings, we must learn to do not the thing that brings us the most comfort. We must do the things that bring the most value and the things that are often hard to do. And because they're hard to do, that's why most people don't do it. So I want you guys to remember that the magic you're seeking is in the work that you're avoiding, the dream that you're fighting for, that raise, that stat, that offer, that difficulty in your relationship that you want to fix. The thing that you know you have to do that you're avoiding, whether it's putting that donut down or holding your mouth within a conversation or not crashing out and practicing discipline, or when it comes to making cold calls or making sales or having strategies, that list you're avoiding or that hard conversation that you're not having, the magic you're seeking is in the work that you're avoiding.
I'm going to steal one from the same person. And I wasn't planning on doing this, but there was something, we talked about it in Mass this morning. And one thing that Charlie would always say, and it's something that I want to tell everybody out there, he would say that your story matters. Whatever area you're in your life, if you feel like you have more growth or if you feel like you've reached the pinnacle of wherever you think you're going to go, your story matters. You are one of one. You were created in God's image. Every single day that you get an opportunity, and I will say this every single time that I get the opportunity to do this, every chance you get to plant your feet on the ground in the morning and start back at zero, give grace, give thanks, speak it into existence, but go out there and lead with love. Love tough, pour into your relationships, be vulnerable, be honest, but make sure people know that you care, because if they do that and if you do that, that's going to make this world a better place. And if we can do that just by having little podcast things like this and showing people out there that 3 former football players can be a little bit vulnerable, talk about finding balance, talk about their faith, talk about their relationships and how much they love people and mentoring people, then obviously we're ahead of the curve here. So if we can get things like this to spill out into the world and make it a better place, mission accomplished. So on behalf of myself, Aaron Babicz, our co-host, Mr. Christopher Okoye, and legend in the state of Michigan in multiple areas, like I said, whether it's in one of our organizations, the MHSAA, MIAAA, NIAAA at Western Michigan at homecoming events when they talk about football. At Robichaud, the home of the Bulldogs,
Yes, sir.
which I hold near and dear to my heart because I have a lot of friends from Robichaud. But Jason Malloy, I can't tell you how much we appreciate having you on here
Thank
today.
you.
God bless you in everything you do. Keep breathing that fire. And when all else fails, keep hammering. And Chris?
Your story matters. Your story deserves to be heard. But if you want that story to be heard at scale, I can help you with that if you become a community partner. And if you can't do that, don't forget, always support the 1928 Club so events like this can continue to happen here at Catholic Central. I love you guys. Have a blessed day.
You jazzed that one up a little bit this week, huh? We'll take
You
it.
get them ducats too.
We'll take it. We appreciate you guys. This is the House of Hammer signing off. Keep hammering.
Ladies, gentlemen, Shamrock Nation,